How often would you typically be driving to Redskins Park during the week?
This time of year, probably just once to do Larry Michaels' show.
Mm-hmm.
But OTAs would be starting. Now, I don't know if the media would be out there quite yet, but over the next month, especially going towards draft week, I mean, the week of the draft, I'd be out at the park probably 4 days, and then I'd be at our studio in Bethesda, the rest of the time. I'd be running around a lot right now. I honestly think tomorrow would have been Ohio State's pro day, and I would have been in Columbus for that. Last week or 2 weeks ago would have been NFL owners meeting, so I would have been in Florida for that. Who knows? I don't know what we would have done for the draft if maybe I would have gone to Vegas, if Chase Young went to Vegas, just to try to secure that interview. But, I'm cognizant that there are people out there with exponentially much harder circumstances. But, this thing has put a real damper on a million. I think the unintended consequences of shutting everything down are so vast and wide-reaching,
JP, this is looking forward a bit to the draft, but what are those hurdles going to be like for you and the other people that cover the team as far as covering the draft since it's all being done remotely? I know they wouldn't let you in the war room anyway. You do something probably from the park. Are you doing something from Redskins Park? Are you doing it from your home right in front of your camera? How's that going to work?
Yeah, Redskins Park is closed. It's my understanding that nobody's going to be there for the draft, including coaches, Ron Rivera, Kyle Smith. Everybody's going to be remote. I think for the media, the only real difference with the number 2 pick, I don't know how focused anybody would be about breaking who they're drafting. I think we all know who they're drafting. But obviously some sort of trade or anything, I think it'll be harder to get that sort of high-level information out because it's so distant, and there's not 20 people in a room and 50 people in a facility. The ultimate decision makers are probably going to be much more close to the vest, and I don't know if you saw John Harbaugh's comments about being concerned about getting hacked on draft night. I think that's legitimate. When you get into the world of super competitive billion-dollar organizations, I think there could be some level of, I'm not saying one team to another team trying to hack, but the level of computer knowledge is probably much higher outside of football coaches and scouts and personnel guys than it is inside that world. And with so much eyeballs and attention devoted to that, especially the first round, Thursday night, that couple-hour period, I think it's going to be nuts. Who knows what's going to happen? For me personally, reporting on it, I think because the Skins will be on the clock, by 8:15, and their pick will probably be made by 8:25. I don't think it'll be that much harder. We're going to be live on air for a couple hours that night, and that'll be interesting because, we're starting to get back into the flow of doing television shows, but we haven't done anything live yet. It's one thing to be doing remotes when you have all your equipment and producers and everybody's in the same place, but everybody's remote. Everybody's working off a computer at their house. So that stuff will probably have some technical challenges, if I had to guess.
Cakes, every NFL team should have a guy remember Theo from Die Hard, the brother with the glasses who was unloading the vaults or unlocking the vaults? Every NFL team should have the biggest computer nerd on hand to make sure everything goes smooth.
Hire that dude now.
Yep. Get him in there.
That dude's in high demand all over the country, I'm guessing.
Talking to JP Finlay from NBC Sports Washington, Redskins Insider, you wrote about Kyle Allen being the backup if everything goes to hell and they only have 2 weeks before season starts, right? Ron Rivera talked about that.
Yeah, so it was pretty interesting. Ron Rivera did an extensive video conference with local reporters yesterday. And then that comment, I noticed that last night from a Sports Illustrated story. So it's my understanding that Ron also did a call with national reporters. And I think the quote that I tweeted out this morning is from a call with national reporters. And what he said makes a lot of sense. It's still just interesting that he said it. Basically, I mean, the NFL has said they want to come out and play their season as it's regularly scheduled in September. But what is very unclear, it's unclear if that'll happen, one, but it's very unclear and probably unlikely on some level that there's going to be any off-season work, and that could stretch all the way to training camp, which usually opens in late July. So if training camp gets condensed and maybe they cut the preseason, and all of a sudden these teams get together late August for an early September start, Ron Rivera said, listen, if we only have 2 weeks to go, I'd be very comfortable going with Kyle Allen as our quarterback because he already knows the system and he's up and running. Dwayne Haskins doesn't know the system, and they're going to get playbooks, and he'll be able to talk with players, via Zoom and video conference and everything else, talk with new coaches. But, for Dwayne, you're talking about somebody that will be with his fifth play caller in 4 years, fourth play caller in 3 years, and his third new offensive system in 3 years. And, it's widely reported how much he struggled to get up to speed last year. And you like to think that he's more mature now and understands the pace which he needs to attack an NFL playbook. But, none of those are sure things. So I think the setup right now is very clear that Haskins would be the guy. But if all hell breaks loose, who knows what's going to happen? It could very easily be every team gets 10 days before the season opener, and in that case, Rivera's made it clear he'd be comfortable to go with Kyle Allen.
I just don't know how they can do that, though, with guys. Like, you're really risking injury with guys. Forget about how clean the reps will be and all that. You can't just have 10, right, JP? You can't just have the guys throw them to the wolves like that quickly.
Especially because gyms are closed.
Yeah.
I know that guys, I've talked to a decent amount of players over the last month or so, and they're all doing what they can to stay in shape. But not everybody has a home gym to the level that NFL players need. Right. Yeah, the workout routines those guys are doing is not the same as an average person banging out 50 push-ups in their backyard or something.
Right.
It's much, much different. So I think you will have to take that into consideration significantly. Rivera kind of touched on that the other day, that he's not going to know what anybody looks like until they all get back in the facility. He hopes that his guys are working out like, I think the quote was, like the professionals they're paid to be. But, you and I just joked around about gaining 10 pounds during quarantine. People forget that NFL players are just regular dudes, regular people too, and if they can't go to the grocery store and the only stuff you can get delivered is pizza and burritos or something, these are significant times for everyone, and that's not going to change because you're a linebacker or you're a tight end on an NFL roster.
Right.
Yeah, if you think about the younger guys on the team, and who knows where they are, but a 23, 24-year-old kid who was living in a condo or in a townhouse, in a townhome community, where is he working out? Is he just running around the block 100 times? What is he doing? Where is he going? I talked
to Sean Davis, who they signed, who's going to be the free safety.
Right.
And he said he's just trying to come up with workouts in his condo in New Jersey. And he's waiting to get the playbook FedEx to him. So that is far from an ideal scenario for how the guy you signed to allow Landon Collins to be his best, they've completely rebuilt the secondary now.
Right.
That's not ideal. You want that guy in the facility, working with Jack Del Rio, working with Chris Harris, the secondary coach, meeting his teammates, starting to understand, where his speed can help them, what Landon's speed is, where he needs to be in certain formations, all of that stuff. And that's beyond, the biggest question for the Skins going into 2020 is Dwayne Haskins. Can Haskins be the guy? Can he show everything he needs to show off the field, on the field, all those things? And his growth is going to be extremely stunted because of all this. There's just no way around that. Now, I guess it's fair in a way because everybody's going through the same thing. Everybody's dealing with the same restrictions and loss of access to the facility. Like, that's league-wide, but it doesn't – it's not going to hurt Russell Wilson or even Kirk Cousins or, you don't have to be top of the league. Like, it's not going to hurt a veteran or an established player like it is a second-year quarterback trying to make an impression on a new head coach.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I mean, the teams with the young quarterbacks are certainly behind the eight ball in this.
Oh, major. And think about Joe Burrow when the Bengals draft him. Right. I mean, typically you'd have rookie minicamp the week after the draft, and a quarterback like that would just live at the facility. I don't even know where Burrow is. He might be in Louisiana or
Ohio. Yeah,
right. I mean, I know he's
might
from
be working
out
out his high school field. Yeah. Yeah,
it's crazy. And the guys that are working out are probably not working out with NFL caliber receivers or, I mean, it's typically they would have these kind of big meetups where guys from all over are coming out to work out together, but you can't really do that. Fields are closed. It's hard to know what it's going to look like.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to Trace McSorley, I don't know, a week ago. He's just throwing to guys that he went to high school with. Guys from around the neighborhood.
And he was working out with Haskins recently.
Yeah, he and Haskins work out together. Yep. But you're right. It's not like they're throwing to guys that are in the NFL. I mean,
where are they even going? Is the St. James still open? Like,
no.
Where can you go?
There's some.
You go to high school field.
There's some field up in Tyson's that they work out at, but I mean, one time Trace was just trying to work out at his high school, Briar Woods, and the guy came over and said, "Sorry, bro, it's closed."
Kicked him off. Yeah.
Well, EB, my friends take their kids to BCC, to their sport athletic field, and that's closed. Like, you're not allowed out there, which I think is. I mean, you can't let people go on a field. Isn't that pretty socially distant? But
well, because you can't control that. All of a sudden, a soccer game breaks out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I get it.
Yeah,
no,
it's brutal. It's brutal.
They're going to have a virtual draft party, right, JP?
Yeah, the Skins are.
How's that work?
Sounds pretty cool. I mean, it should be interesting. I think they'll. I think everybody's going to try their best, and I think they're going to have like Larry Michael hosting and interviewing guests, and I think there will still be plenty of draft coverage because if you just look at like the sports spectrum right now, there is nothing. So the NFL draft is going to command a ton of attention.
Oh, everyone's going to watch it. Yeah.
But everybody is kind of working on these, like you guys on Zoom and stuff. Like it looks like a different product than it is when you're all in the studio and all our guys are at the studio producing it, and it's just going to be different.
Yeah. I can't wait. How many guys, real quick, how many guys do you think will be involved in the process for the Redskins? How many guys do you think will be on a Zoom call?
The amount of guys on the call will probably be 15-ish, I'm guessing.
Wow.
But the amount of guys talking and being heavily involved, I think might get pared down. Because at least until you get to, like, Saturday. Saturday is when it'll get a lot more chaotic. But that first pick, I don't think there's going to be much, if any, discussion unless Miami calls with kind of a Godfather offer. If Miami calls with 5 and 18 and significant offer, then that changes. But otherwise, you just take Chase Young and everybody's very happy. There's no second rounder unless something materializes for Trent, which I don't even think if that happens would get you a second rounder. The third round pick is early in the third round, so they're probably going to be pretty clear on who their targets are there. Mm-hmm. Once you get to Saturday, though, I mean, that's when, you got certain scouts, certain personnel guys really stumping for, I love this guy from, Arkansas State or so, it's hypotheticals. That's when I think the communication can become much harder.
2 4th-rounders, correct? I think they have 2 4th-rounders this year.
Yeah, they have a comp, the comp pick there at the end of the 4th. So that's when the bullets will kind of start flying a lot faster because there's always a ton of third-day draft trades too. Usually folks move up or move back for players they specifically want to target. So I think that's when it could get really complicated.
JP, forgive me, buddy. I shouldn't have asked the last question. We're way backed up. Forgive me, pal.
Take care. No sweat.
Thank you, man.
See you guys.
Yep. Talk to you soon.
JP Finlay. We'll get him on again soon. Forgive me.